Brendan Hamilton, a Washington guy through and through. He takes us through the trials and tribulations of anything and everything in Washington State. He also shares with us the story behind Wam Oil. Gia, his partner, unfortunately wasn't here for the interview, but she is very much present. Enjoy. All right, so we've got Brendan Hamilton right here in studio, and it is a morning interview. We're going to go ahead and point that out right away.
Early for me. I'm from Washington, so this is early.
5:30 in the morning for you.
Yeah, I should be going snowboarding. That's what I'd be doing if I was up this early.
Right about now.
Yeah.
Now, is it just to timestamp it? It's late September 2015. Can I snowboard in Washington State in late September?
If you go up to the top of Mount Rainier and go up to some of the higher elevations, you definitely could. A little dangerous late season snow conditions up there, but it has snowed up at some of the resorts already. But I don't think it's going to be that good of winter. It'll be another winter of working quite a bit for me.
Yeah.
So,
you're not going to be too much recreating.
No. Well, maybe if I get my recreational license squared away soon, I will be recreating.
Thank you for taking the bait on that.
Yes.
I appreciate. All right, so Washington State, you guys have it your way in Washington State, right?
I suppose, if you want to call it. We're the Burger King of the cannabis industry, so.
Well, we'll get into exactly what's going on now and kind of where it's been. I think everybody kind of knows where it's been, but we definitely want your perspective on, how everything has changed and where it is today. But how'd you get into this whole thing?
Well, we started Washington Alternative Medicine was started in 2010 as an idea, and then 2011 we fully formed as a company. And we, like a lot of people in the when you get into cannabis, you're thinking, oh, let's open a dispensary, and then you run right into the real estate issues of getting a storefront going and the constant, oh, what do you want to open? Oh, a dispensary, click. Dispensary, click. Dispensary, click. Which is still the case in a lot of other states and still the case in Washington, I'm sure, in a lot of instances. But that was really the biggest challenge and to start. And after about 6 months of getting constantly told no, I was trying to step back and look at the situation and say, yeah, we're 6 months into this. We still don't have a retail space. What are some other options we can go? And then on top of explaining to my family that I was leaving my architecture practice to go sell cannabis and at the time sling weed, basically out of a storefront. My family are all conservative, military and Mormon, so it was a little complicated to tell them that's what I was doing. So I started thinking about it in terms of how they would utilize cannabis, and while they wouldn't really ever smoke it, I think that they would take pills and lotions, and so I started kind of getting topicals and started getting into the idea of making an oil, and then we made our first Quizzo quick wash ISO oil, and that became a big hit in Seattle. And then we moved from Quizzo to BHO, and then we got the first CO2 extractor in Washington State going, the first high flow system from Eden Labs, and we're the original CO2 oil maker in Washington State. And we brought the vape pens there. I had a rep that he got me dialed in with those with the pens, but we've putting our CO2 oil in the pens, and that was our first hockey stick, and we've had a couple since then, and the market's just taken off since then. So we're one of the original pioneers and one of the original oil makers in Washington State.
There we go. Okay. The pioneer from Rainier, right?
There you go.
So let's unpack a few things that you said here. You were kind of searching around in 2010, 2011 for 6 months to maybe do a dispensary, and then you got into it. But what's that inflection point from I'm an architect, which is That's an okay way to do your career.
Yeah.
That's an okay way to do life. Everything's fine. You know how to do that. Everything's rolling. And then all of a sudden, I'm going to be a cannabis guy. What's the...
Well, I've used cannabis, I would say, since college, really. I've used it recreationally since college, and it replaced alcohol for me because I don't really metabolize alcohol that well. And then after college, I tried to play professional soccer, and I blew my ACL out 3 times trying to do that. And then at that time, I started I discovered the medicinal benefits to cannabis, and didn't really use any pills after my surgery and my recovery. I just don't like the feeling that there's part of my stomach. I was always getting sick, and so that's when I discovered for myself really utilizing cannabis medically. Then I have the other founder of Wam Oil is also she's not here today, but that's also my girlfriend of 16 years.
Right.
And
everybody knows Gia. So,
yeah, everybody
right?
knows G, and she's had cancer 6 times herself, and so here I am, coming home from a hard day at the architecture office, and let's smoke a bowl, or it's kind of unwind after the end of my day.
Sure.
And she would be sick, from her treatments, and I would, come on, try this. I know you'll feel better. There was that like guilty recreational guy on one shoulder saying, "Oh, I'm enjoying this, and here's my girlfriend suffering here. I know this will help." And
right.
So she really did not want to try it, and then I kind of forced it on her because I knew it would help, and it was like for her, it was like a light switch going off that, the pain just went away. I feel instantaneously better after taking a bong hit or a pull off of a pipe. And that's when she kind of discovered it herself. And at the time, it was about 2010. We're still in the recession. Architecture, my projects take a long time to develop. And for the type of work I do at the time, it was building forensics, not much traditional architecture work. And I was looking at up and coming industries, or what am I going to do if I can't get another big architecture project for my firm? And so then that's when dispensaries started really popping up in Washington State, and so there was a natural evolution saying, let's try this out. I love cannabis. My girlfriend has cancer. Let's start a business that can help her and then help the community as well, and get involved in this new economy that's evolving. And it's I really haven't looked back since.
Yeah, it's the perfect storm. And when talking to folks that have been in it for a while like you, there's really 2 different ways in, usually. One is economic downturn. Let me try something else. Architecture, perfect example of that. And then the other is patient use, medical. Either me, myself, or a loved one. And you had both of those. So 6 times with cancer. Since G is not here, we'll let her tell her own story. But I know that she is happy and healthy right now. So we celebrate that.
Yes, definitely,
right?
definitely.
So then, you and your silly ACL, who gives a shit, really?
Yeah, exactly. I'm going snowboarding again. My knee hurts. Oh, poor you.
Yeah. So, but what did happen? Let's kind of get into you approaching pro soccer. How close did you get?
I was invited to the Major League Soccer Combine.
You were?
Yes, I was a goalkeeper, and my scouting report. People that know me will think this is funny. I'm a diehard Dallas Cowboys fan. Sorry, Seahawks fans. My friends know that.
Or Giants fans, or
Giants
anybody.
fans were, yeah.
Anybody that's not a Cowboys fan.
And I keep it on the down low down in Washington that I'm a Cowboys fan. But so I was trying to play soccer, and my scouting report said hands like Jerry Rice as a goalkeeper. That was really, really good. And so that report right there got me invited to the combine. And I popped my left ACL snowboarding, and then the combine was about 7.5, 8 months after my surgery, which was really pushing an ACL rehab for someone that doesn't have trainers at their and hyperbaric chambers to go into. And so at about month 7, I popped the graft about 2 weeks before I was supposed to leave to go down to Florida. And so then that was the second time.
Ugh.
And so then I said, well, thank goodness I have a degree, 2 degrees in architecture, and I started my architecture career after that. And then the World Cup came along and started pulling at my desire to start playing ball again. And
which one was this? Just to timestamp it again.
Oh, I would say the 2008 one?
Okay,
I think? Or
sure.
2004
okay.
one, I think, right around there.
Yeah.
And
so Korea and Japan, right?
Yeah, I think so. And so then I started playing indoor again, which I loved playing indoor goalkeeper. Just people shooting soccer balls at you from 10 feet away as hard as they can. I mean, what's better than that, And so then I popped my right one playing indoor, and after that I said, well, I don't know. Now I coach. I'm a youth coach team, youth goalie coach now. So
you are.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you're getting your kind of kicks off. Forgive me, through that, or I mean, is it the same or not necessarily?
It's actually pretty neat. Actually, I don't have kids myself, but this actually ties back to. We'll tie this back to cannabis because when in Washington State, you have to have a zoned facility that's has the right square footage, very tight, very difficult to find those spaces. And the building, the warehouse that we got, there was a big competition between myself and 3 or 4 other well-funded companies, much better funded than I was. And the building owner, we were leaving. He says, "Oh, I have to go coach my kid's soccer team." I said, "Oh, well, do you have a goalie coach?" And he said, "No." And I said, "Well, if you pick me for this building, I'll be your goalie coach." And so I've been that got me involved with coaching, and we took city championship last year. And then I got promoted to an assistant coach this year, and now I have to be at practice like 3 times a week now and show up for games now. And so, it's pretty neat because. Translating that information and that skill and the kids are a lot different than when I was a kid. Now it's very you don't push it. It's like wrong to push kids now or something now to be the best and to win. And I'm just like, this is your goalie box. You own this space. It's fun. And the coach just told me, says, just don't swear. Just don't swear. That's the only thing. So
I just want to correct us. 2002. Was South Korea, Japan.
There we go.
Then 2006, Germany. 2010, South Africa. 2014, Brazil. And, of course, we know that we're going to Russia in 2018, which I think it would be hilarious if the United States won the World Cup in Russia.
That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome.
But
U.S. winning the World Cup period would be awesome.
Well, sure, of course. All right, so you're an old soccer guy. You tear your ACL 3 times. They're trying to push pills on you. And... you had known cannabis as a student, I guess, is how we're saying this.
Right.
And then you just replaced the pills with the cannabis?
Right. Like I said, it was really my first introduction into using it medically. And I think one of the things that people don't realize is even if they use it recreationally, cannabis recreationally, that it's on some level there is a medical benefit there without you really realizing it. And I didn't realize it either until I had the surgery, and then even after that, from the stress of being in this industry and the trials and tribulations, that's when I realized, oh my gosh, well, I'm actually using cannabis to mellow out too, as well, from a psychological standpoint as well, because it can be very stressful and hectic, and this is a business that you constantly, as I like to say, you have to get ready to get kicked in the nuts every single week and stand right back up and say, hey, I'm ready for more. Let's do this dance again.
That's it. And everybody kind of talks about it that way. Some people mention that part of the anatomy. Some say hit in the face.
Yeah.
Either way, it hurts.
Yeah. This is a painful business sometimes. It's not easy. It's and utilizing cannabis sometimes has helped me mitigate that stress. And
so you've got the stress, you've got the ACL, you've got Gia with cancer 6 times. Now let's get to the family. You've got your conservative, military, Mormon family, and you're like, okay, guys, I got the next idea. It's cannabis.
It's
how did that go over?
Well, it was kind of funny. went to my mom's ranch in Idaho, and we're hanging out for the holiday, and it was Christmas, and G was with me, and we were talking. Are you gonna tell her what you're doing? And yeah, we're 5 days into the trip, and still haven't said anything. And finally, I'm like, well, Mom, I've got something to tell you, and it's like, she's no idea. I mean, my mom knew I was a cannabis user, and so sat her down and said, Mom, I'm actually going into the marijuana business. Yeah. And she's like, oh my gosh, and well, tell me all about it. And she was very supportive. I was really pleased with the support that I got from my mom, and then she kind of started breaking the ice for me with the rest of the family, and it turns out my family, almost all of my family, are behind me 100%. One of my uncles I reached out to when Romney was running for president. I had a local endorsement for cannabis from the LDS Church for medical marijuana in Seattle, and in the event that Romney got elected or got elected as president, I was starting to work with some connections I had from my family in the church in Utah to get an endorsement from the LDS Church on a national level, which would have been great, but Romney didn't win the election, and so we didn't really pursue that much further.
Right, yeah. So that's, I had never considered the fact that those two entities would be friends, Mormons and cannabis. How did that local endorsement happen?
Well, we had, the missionaries are always coming by my place.
Sure.
Trying to get me to start going back to church.
Right.
And I love talking to anybody about stuff, and especially I was the kind of guy that
we're going to quote that. I love talking to anybody about stuff.
About stuff, exactly. And so the missionaries would come over, and I would talk to them about anything. And hey, you guys want a beer?
Right.
Drink a beer, and everything. And because I don't know, I'm just. I was the black sheep of my family, obviously.
But also a friendly guy. You got people in your house, here's a beer, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so then I started talking to them about this issue, and I said, well, how does the church stand on medical marijuana? And they said, well, I don't know. Let me get back to you on it. And they came back to me and said, well, as long as it's a doctor's recommendation and you're following all the laws, and the church here locally doesn't seem to have an issue with it. And I was pleasantly surprised by that, but not really, actually, because Mormons have always been about utilizing all of the resources that they have around them to take care of themselves. And so from a recreational standpoint, I'll be shocked if the Mormon church ever gets behind cannabis. But from a medical standpoint, I would say they would be probably one of the first churches I would say that would be open to it, really.
Understanding that Romney didn't win, as you say, why not, though, continue with that endorsement? That seems to be at least a rather fervent community, no matter how you look at it. And if you've got a national platform, why not use it? Or a potential national platform?
Well, cannabis is one of those things where there's a lot of issues that you have to deal with.
Indeed.
And so you've really got to pick your time. There's only 24 hours in a day, and if an issue rears it's a bit like whack-a-mole. When it rears its head, you need to whack it back down, and then there's always something else coming up. So you've really got to use your time and your efforts wisely to pursue the avenues that are going to get you somewhere. And so when Romney didn't get elected, I didn't really see that as a threat to the industry at that point if he didn't get elected. And it would be great to get an endorsement from the LDS Church for medical marijuana, definitely on a national level. It would be something that would could definitely advance the conversation. In Washington State, though, at the time, we were still writing regulations and writing our own rules. And so it just, you got to set this ball down for right now, and we'll pick this one back up when we can, because there's a lot of work to be done still left in our state and in other states across the board. So it's a matter mostly about bandwidth, actually.
Sure. No, totally makes sense. Let's set that ball down there. And 2010, 2011, you had mentioned that you're going to start a dispensary, and then you found oil, and here's 2012. So I think we're picking up your story right at about the right time. What made that happen? How did that kind of occur?
So we got Eden's first high-flow supercritical extractor going, up and running, and then we got the vape pens going, and then we got on CNN, and CNN called me the mad scientist of weed, and which I love that. I mean, that's awesome. And we're at an NCIA event here in New York, and that was one of the first getting involved in one of the first political groups, and that's how we got on CNN and staying involved with the NCIA and all these other groups that got us going. And really got that got us a lot of traction, and immediately the phone started ringing off the hook, and investors started, I stopped pursuing investors started talking to us and coming to us, and then the whole market just really grew exponentially in Seattle. The vape pens appeared everywhere, and then it became difficult to not get caught up in the race to the bottom.
Sure.
Because we were trying to make a high quality product.
And actually, let's take that tangent and explain what you mean.
In cannabis, there's lots of different ways you could do things, and as markets transition from a black to a gray to a white market, those same ethics come with that, and the same qualities come with that. And as being an architect previous and having high standards of design and wanting to put out a good product no matter what I'm doing, I just was like, we made Quizzo, Quick Wash ISO, which is a very entry level extract, then BHO, like I said, which is a good extract all across the board.
Sure.
But CO2 to me was the Porsche or the Ferrari of extracts, and making a refined oil then, meaning it's de-waxed and all the plant matter and the potency is very high and the plant matter is all removed, and but you can kick out extracts that have all that stuff in there, and the marketplace isn't sophisticated enough yet to differentiate between an unrefined and a refined oil, a BHO and a CO2, an ISO and a CO2. And at the time, when you're cranking out Porsches and everyone else, or not everyone, but a lot of people, the majority of the marketplace is kicking out a Volkswagen or a Yugo, and you're
let's go with Yugo.
Yeah, exactly. and you're selling Porsches. It's like it's a little frustrating.
Same
expensive.
Price point, or
it's the consumer doesn't know yet, and half the dispensaries don't know at the time what the differences are between the different oils, and it's still to this day a little frustrating, and it's expensive to take the high road and to keep the industry on the high road. And because, like I said, as it transitions from the black to the gray to the white, those same values, those same business standards, everything come from that black market as well. And I'm sure there's a lot of great people in the black market, but there's also a lot of bad people in the black market, and a lot of people are still, they're transitioning that mindset as well. There's a lot of good players that were in the black market that are going to be good players in the fully legal market, and it just has taken time and a strong value system within our company, and to have a good compass for that define our values as a company, because you sit there and look at the numbers, and you've got a competitor that's cutting their oil with PG or PEG, propylene glycol, or polyethylene glycol, or glycerin, and they're putting in half the oil that you're putting in, but you're telling the bud, no, this has 500 milligrams of oil, not 250 milligrams. Yes, it's still a half a gram, but explaining all the math on the milligram and the dosage to a bud tender who doesn't really know what's up still.
Right.
But it's turning out that the bud tenders are one of the most important communication points for the education, and so that's where G usually takes on this one, is the education of the product, because she's really coming from that. She is a new cannabis user since late 2006 or so, although her family used cannabis back in the day quite a bit, but she's not here to talk about that. But she's been really into the education of it, and I've been really into advancing the dialogue in it, and so we really play off each other really well. Her being primarily a medical user and myself being primarily a recreational user, and so we can still have those same values from the two markets, and they really balance each other out really well. So I think that's been one of the things we've been very successful at.
Yeah, absolutely. And you bring up the bud tender and that being an education point for back to the dispensary owner and out to the consumer. Because you're talking about not only BHO versus CO2, but you're also talking about then cutting that oil, even if it is CO2 or cutting the BHO. So vastly different quality of product. I would imagine, especially in Washington, that the education of the dispensary owner, the newer dispensary owners, the old guys, people like John Davis know all this, of course, but the newer folks and the consumer, I would imagine that education has risen partly due to Gia's efforts, but share with us how that is different maybe from that path from 2012 to 2015.
Well,
just the education piece.
Just the education piece. It is. Well, it's still, the education is still, like, we're here in New York and people don't know anything about
New York,
oils.
I'm saying, and now I'm just trying to focus on Washington State, where you guys are. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting in that standpoint because as we transition into the recreational market, a lot of closet cannabis users, so to speak, that have just been using flower or that's their only experience with it, they're coming into the marketplace as well.
Yes.
And the greatest thing about cannabis right now is the amount of products that the general user or even non-user or a patient or just a person who's curious about cannabis can go into a store now and see a vast array of products. However, in the 502 market, most of the early advocates and early dispensary owners still have not transitioned over into the 502 or being the recreational market.
Yeah.
In Washington State,
we like to call it adult use, by the way.
Adult use. Yeah. In Washington State, we call them the 502 or the medical.
Sure.
It's still kind of in that vernacular.
Right. Either or.
Yeah. And so the owners of the adult use stores in Washington State tend to be people that are just coming into the industry and from a more of a business standpoint. Oh, we're going to get in. Oh, we got a license, or oh, I purchased a license. And you go into a 502 or an adult use store in Washington now, and there's not a lot of shops that really know what's up yet. Yeah. We've gone in to do market research and it'll say, oh, this is a they'll be advertising at a CO2 pen, and I know exactly. That's my competitor. I'm looking. That's not a CO2 pen. Right. That's actually an alcohol pen, an ISO pen, and we'll call the person. Excuse me, but this is not a CO2, and they're looking at us like, well, I don't even know what a CO2 pen is.
Oh no. And so now we're talking about some of those stores have been open for about 12 months or more, right? Because January 1st, in Washington, July 1st, 2014. So we've had more than a year, and you're saying the education still isn't there.
Still not there on the
502
use,
side.
on the 502 side. In Washington State, though, the stores are going to be able to get medical endorsements, and they will be trained and be able to educate the consumer a little bit more than just going into and hey, let me get this, and in terms of an adult use store, the medical endorsed stores, I think I'm hoping will be able to serve a good patient base and provide the education. It's just it's still an early market, and
even Washington is
even early. Washington, yeah. And one of the things that I try to tell people, and this is when I give talks and when I talk about this issue with groups. One of the things that, and I try to cover my own ass on this thing here, in the sense that nobody knows everything about this yet. And anybody who says they know exactly what's going on in this industry is full of it. They just, it's because it's all learning. We're all still learning. It is all
learning, and we are here in New York, as you have mentioned, and there is some ancillary noise from outside, so hopefully folks are enjoying that. New York's bravest driving around outside.
There we go.
But it's all education, and it's all new. And having said that, even if you know what's going on in Washington State, you're not as familiar with what's going on in Colorado. You're not as familiar with what's going on in California. We are still at this completely separate geography place as far as this is the way it works here, this is the way it works there, and then each state that comes online has brand new different rules and regulations. So it makes it easy on folks like you, right?
No, not at all. I actually was talking to someone about this is probably the biggest exercise of states' rights since the Civil War.
Without
I would
question.
say. And each state is coming on differently. Each state is, and the conversation came up when they were talking about, this state is going to ban this, and this state you can't have flour, and this state you can't have oil, and this, and all these different rules coming up. And it's one of the things that I think is important to pay attention to as your state comes online, is to pay attention to all those little nuances in the legislation, because one word can turn a phrase that makes something illegal that shouldn't be illegal. And oftentimes legislatures don't even mean to do it. Bills and legislation take many drafts to get right, and so those phrases that just get written a certain way, it really have to pay attention to the little details on them. And I also tell people, when those things happen, don't be discouraged by that. There's another legislative session coming up, and it's not the end of the world. Yes, it's unfortunate that this played out like this, but we've got another session coming up next year, or in the next few months. And so try not to be discouraged when those things happen, but it's important to pay attention to those critical policy details as they're written. And then the best thing to do is actually write the policy, write the legislation, write the law, and hand that to the politicians. Say, this is what the law should read like. And if you do that, and you're with a group that can do that, we were able to do that in Washington State, and we got a lot of things done right. We missed on a lot of things, but we're going to fix those over the year.
Take us through that exercise. Take us through the group that you had, and take us through that whole moment in time.
Well, that was actually one of the funnest parts about this. When I first got into the industry, being a conservative, I'm a big states' rights guy, and when I was sitting in early meetings of the CCSE, which we're a founding member of in Washington State, which is the Coalition for Cannabis Standards and Ethics. We were sitting around, and this is before there's any legislation. This is before there's really anything going on. There's just an initiative.
Right.
And people are opening dispensaries.
So this is about 2013, right?
No, this is like 2011.
Oh, wow. Oh, all the way back.
Yeah, 2011.
Okay. All right,
and,
before the vote.
Yeah, before 502. This is before 502 was even, a wish, or even a draft of anything. And we're sitting around, and we're talking about how to approach our Senator Jeannie Colwell with some draft legislation. And I'm sitting around this room, and I was just in awe that I was in a room that was discussing the ability of Washington State. And I was writing a law in Washington State to give a legislator that was going to tell the federal government, hey, we're going to sell marijuana. We're selling marijuana, and we're going to, as a state, do this. And it was one of the proudest moments I had in my life, actually, that I'm part of a state that's really saying, hey, federal government, we're going to do this, and we're going to do it right, and we're going to show you that we could do it right. And I'm very proud of my work and my team's work that has participated in this process.
2 questions. Who was in the room, and why did you think you could get this done?
No one of any at the time.
Yeah.
No one of any.
No big names.
No big names at all. I would say probably Greta and John were the 2 biggest players in that room.
Right.
And
Greta Firmino and John from NWPRC.
Right.
Also HempFest.
Right.
Yeah.
And those 2 became very big allies of the industry, and just being able to make those connections politically, and to it was good for me. I was actually able to address a lot of conservative issues. This is in Washington State. It's primarily a Democrat run state, especially in King County, where I was at the time, and where I'm still there in King County.
Right.
But I would always...
Some would call it a Democratic state.
Yeah. And...
I just poked the bear right there. He literally had to go to the coffee to regroup. Anyway, go on.
And so I would always, it was a good exercise for me, because I would being an opinionated conservative, I'd always pipe up with my opinion on stuff. But with cannabis, I've really had to kind of pick my battles because in Washington State, or especially in Seattle, if you pipe up that you're a Republican or a conservative, you're out of the conversation.
Yeah.
You're persona non grata.
Yeah. Go to the corner.
Yeah, go buy us a beer somewhere and bring it over, and maybe we'll talk to you. And so I would really just try to, well, conservatives are going to answer, or again, they're going to ask this question this way, and we need to maybe talk about it in these terms over here. And then I would kind of just sit back and let people talk amongst themselves as they would with the particular issue.
Right.
It was a really good time. I felt to really get in. I was just excited to be involved in the process of it, and to be one of those early, pioneers to write the law and to get exposure doing it, and to make to have an effect on policy. As Americans, we're supposed to be involved in our government, and it was really it's very daunting to do that. Let's go get involved in policy and legislation, but to get traction and to see your work in place, and to have it, have a ripple effect across the state and across the country. It's very awe-inspiring to be part of that process.
So dot the line from that room. You hand off the legislation, hand off what you've written to your senator, as you say, right? And then what happened from there?
And then it goes through the policy and legislative meat grinder that it is of legislation of changing this and rewriting that, and oh my gosh, they're going to ban this and then ban that, right. And it's just constant vigilance of paying attention to it as it's going through the steps in wherever your legislator works. Or in Washington State, it's Olympia, Washington, and so that's about an hour and 20-minute drive out of Seattle with bad traffic, and so a lot of long drives down to Olympia, and a lot of long drives to the other side of the state too. In fact, when 502 first came out, this is actually a good example. When 502 first came out, concentrates were never even mentioned in 502. So first we get the medical, all right, and then the 502 gets, which was a state initiative,
sure,
and then that got enacted, and then that changed the whole dynamic, and everyone started focusing on that. Then the legislature started revolving around, how are we going to legalize it now?
Right.
Well, it's moved from medical to legalization.
Right.
And that was a big can of worms. I mean,
because medical actually was going along okay, then here's adult use, and then everybody's kind of hair got set on fire type of thing.
Yeah, and that's when, boy, the biggest. Washington State would be a lot further along in that process too, because during medical, we actually wrote a great piece of legislation that was vetoed, line item vetoed. Almost all of it was vetoed by Christine Gregoire, who personally I find she's responsible for the mess in Washington State by vetoing the legislation that occurred. It is resulted in the direct problems we have in Washington State right now with the.
Because other names usually get mentioned, as far as blame.
Well, we had great legislation that covered a lot of bases, and she was getting pressure, I believe, to saying, "Oh, we're going to go in and arrest state workers, state employees if they do this," and no, they weren't. They weren't going to get arrested.
Right.
No one. Just like the whole property seizure thing that they've been used to, we're going to take your building if you lease to this. Well, no, they haven't.
Under what law?
Yeah.
How?
And what you're going to arrest federal employees for following state law. That
How's that going to work?
Yeah, that wasn't going to happen. I mean,
well, that's John's favorite subject. Is that's wonderful. I appreciate your opinion. Based on what? How are you going to? Based on what are you going to? Right. I understand you're going to come in fantastic. Welcome. And then now you're doing it based on what?
Right. Yeah.
Show me the...
Yeah, exactly. What are you going to do? And it was very frustrating to work on such a great piece of legislation and what could have been eventual law, and and that was one of those times getting kicked in the nuts.
Yeah.
But you just have to stand up and keep going to the next day, and to the next battle. And if you never quit, you can't fail.
Yeah.
And
if you never quit, you can't fail.
And and then 502 came on, which never even mentioned concentrates.
Right.
And all of a sudden, the vape pen that was a big hit that I helped bring to all my numbers and financial projections were based on this, and all of a sudden that wasn't even mentioned in the adult use recreational, and so it was a big scramble to even get that covered, and the Liquor Control Board had to kind of look at the issue, and then they said, oh, okay, we'll allow concentrates, but we'll only allow 100 milligrams per serving in each, and I was like, well, wait a second, 100 milligrams is a drop of oil, basically, or it can be a drop of oil, a big drop of oil, but still, it's difficult. The thing about concentrates, it's difficult to deliver that unless it's like in a pill but in a vape pen, 100 milligrams is nothing.
Because you're not taking it all at once.
Right.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden I am hiring lobbyists and lawyers to, let's get this, because it really changed under 502. The lobbying effort evolved from grassroots to corporate, and a lot of big money started rolling in, and so the access got really expensive, and so the work got even harder because most of the people in the industry early on, we have a little bit of capital, but not like these guys coming in that are in the market now, and so it was the lobbyists really weren't getting much. The Liquor Control Board was very conservative in a lot of and I understand it's about public safety. I understand it, and it just, again, it requires the education, and so they were saying 100 milligrams per serving, and just wasn't enough, because I'm putting at the time 500 milligrams in one of my vape pens, to 375 milligrams in another one of the lines, and we're looking at other ones that are 1,000 milligrams in the vape pen, and so one day I had missed the comment in Seattle, and so they were the Liquor Control Board was going across the state, and so the next stop was in Ellensburg, halfway across the state, and so I called my lawyer, how are we doing on this dosage? No, we're not getting anywhere. I called my lawyer, how are we doing on this not getting anywhere, hasn't changed, and all right, drop everything, we have to go, we missed it, the comments yesterday, cancel the afternoon, we need to drive across the state, let's go to the lab, grab some samples, and we raced across the state, and was the last person to sign up for the comments, and about 3/4 of the comments that the Liquor Control Board was getting, they had no power to, like, we can't change that, I'm sorry, I appreciate your comment, but that has nothing to do with our scope, next comment please, kind of was like that, and so I'm the last one there, and it's late, and they're all red-eyed and want to go home, and all of a sudden I come up and I said, "Oh, you guys remember me? You came to my lab," and they're like, "Hey, Brandon, how you doing?" And I said, "Oh, so I'm here to comment about dosage," and immediately they kind of perk up because there's something that there's something in our wheelhouse,
right?
And I said, "Well, you guys came to my lab and you love my vape pen, which has 500 milligrams in here, and I'm holding it up for everybody."
Right?
And this is conservative Eastern Washington too, where it's a little bit not quite as friendly about cannabis as in Western Washington. And I said, but with your 100 milligrams, you're going to get this syringe, because it only has this and it, just squeeze out this little bit, and it's the only way you can really effectively deliver 100 milligrams right now, because the technology isn't there yet with concentrate delivery devices. And then one of the LCB ladies that I knew, and I said, see, you hate, your face is recoiling from it right now, and they kind of laughed, and then it just became part of the conversation, and then
that's a powerful image. I can either do the vape pen, or you're going to give me a syringe. Is this what we want to do here?
Yeah. And then like 3 months later, I ran into one of the main guys that was doing the Liquor Control Board groups, and with the comments, and he came up to me and he says, "Brandon," he says, you flipped us. We didn't want those syringes everywhere, and we remembered that in in our sessions, and it was again one of those times when I'm like, awesome. It felt great to affect policy.
Totally.
And
absolutely. I mean, I can see it. I can see it myself, right?
And yeah, exactly. You see, we're getting traction. Yeah. We can have a voice. Yeah, we're not going to win everyone, but we're going to win some of them, and we just need to keep at it.
Talk about that. Absolutely. But talk about that. The traction, because a couple months ago we were talking about Washington State flying the plane while they're building it, right?
Right.
Where are we now? If it's late September 2015, it feels like we're over at least a hump.
Wow.
I don't know
if this one gives me goosebumps because the whole market just took a huge shift.
Mm-hmm.
If you're coming up into this industry, be prepared for the market to shift about every 6 months.
Right.
Something is going to happen that will fundamentally change the marketplace that you're existing in as cannabis comes on about every 6 months is kind of my
that's
estimate.
about right.
Right?
Yeah.
And
or less.
Yeah, or less. And you have to be prepared for it.
Yeah.
And in Washington State, the cannabis policy seems to come out of Seattle proper, King County.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of the state tends to follow suit, and not always, but in most instances. And recently in Seattle, medical if you were not in business prior to 2013, and you can show that you were in business with a business license, paying your taxes, registering with the state, and all those kind of things like a regular business does. So those of you listening, go get your business licenses. Mm-hmm. Just do it. Mm-hmm. I don't care. Somehow, some way, get a business license that's related, if you're going to do this, as early as you can, and show a track record. Mm-hmm. Show what you've been doing. Pay your taxes. Because those companies that did that in Seattle, even if they didn't get a dispensary lottery win, there's now a pathway for them to exist still in the marketplace.
That it corrects the lottery system,
right.
Essentially.
It sort of does.
Kind of. It speaks to it at least.
Yeah. And but if you didn't have those records, you're out of business. One of our best customers in Seattle, they're out of business now. They just closed their doors this last 16th of September.
Yeah.
John Davis, an ally of ours,
Sure.
of mine, and John.
Yeah.
He had to. He's considered the grandfather of medical marijuana in Washington State, and even he had to show that he was doing things. And we were down at DPD and getting them to put stuff on the record. Yes, this place is zoned for a medical marijuana dispensary, and they're putting that in the city records. That's pretty cool when
you say even he had to show it, but that's kind of his wheelhouse.
Exactly.
To bring in a binder full of
Yeah. And so medical marijuana in Washington State is the way it was is effectively gone.
Uh-huh.
And after next July,
Yes.
2016, medical marijuana in Washington State, the way it existed before, will be completely gone. It'll be highly regulated.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone will be paying taxes like a regular business. The margins are going down to 20, like a regular business, 20 to 30% margins.
Mm-hmm.
No more keystoning your product. It's getting very, very aggressive. We were talking with a company from Colorado, and he was saying how they're all really friendly in Colorado, and they know this and all and it's still friendly in Washington State between players, but right now it's a bit of a bloodbath between the medical and the adult use, between different companies.
Yeah.
It's as a conservative, I would say capitalism as it's at its finest, but it's funny because this industry, the other thing I've been telling is this industry turns Republicans into Democrats and Democrats into Republicans. Because now I give money to Democrats, and my Republican friends harass me because Democrats are friendly to this policy. And then you talk to Democrats, and it's like, oh my gosh, all these regulations and taxes. Oh my God, this is insane, and it just totally reverses how you view the world. No matter what your perspective, it makes you shift on itself.
I'll use a phrase. Hopefully it's that first post-partisan type of industry,
Exactly.
Because it has to be
exactly
type of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, this it's funny because I think actually most people are kind of middle of the road
Sure.
in this country, and we get pulled to other sides, and honestly, a lot of people use cannabis more than what they imply they do. Democrat, Republican, libertarian, libertarian pot smoking Republican,
Sure.
that's what that is.
Sure.
And
and look at the numbers. I mean,
yeah.
it's 70 whatever percent
Right.
are behind legalization of some kind.
Right.
All right, so thank you for giving us a picture, a window into Washington State. Thank you for giving us a picture, a window into Wam Oil. And, I don't know if you want to just a final thought on where you're going now, from September 2015 into 2016, any goals that you want to mention or not necessarily?
Well...
Let me get through next Tuesday type of thing.
Well, yeah, exactly. I guess for us, it's for Wam Oil. It's about getting our 502 license squared away.
Mm-hmm.
We've been a little slow coming onto the 502 marketplace intentionally because the market just isn't there yet. There's only around 125 retail stores open across the state.
Which is a lot for some states, by the way.
There's 100.
Tell New York, what I'm saying?
I know. I saw yesterday. Oh, well, there's 5. And I'm like, what? There's 5 on my block. I mean, and I think it's. I mean, not that a block needs 5, but
Yeah.
Good competition, healthy
Indeed.
competition results in lots of stores opening on stuff, and so we've in last year I would estimate there's probably 700 dispensaries across the state in Washington State, and so that's the demand. And so when the outlets and the retail outlets are online, then right now it's a buyer's market from the store standpoint, and so we chose to slow it up a little bit and let the market evolve and not get caught up. If we'd come into 502 early on, a lot of companies are bankrupt already because the marketplace just wasn't there. They didn't. A gram was selling wholesale for about $1.50 a gram.
Crazy.
And so we want to let the market evolve a little bit. We want to get our 502 license finalized and our facility finalized here in the next month or so, and then start expanding the brand. Work on some other things. We love the East Coast out here. A lot of stuff coming up out here. So that's why we're out here.
Yeah.
Right now, so.
Well, thanks for coming to New York. Right.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for having us. This is awesome here. New York's great.
All right. So 3 final questions we kind of ask everybody. What has most surprised you in cannabis? What has most surprised you in life? And on the soundtrack of life, of Brendan Hamilton's life, name one track, name one song. So first things first, what has most surprised you in cannabis?
What's most surprised me in cannabis? I would say the looks that I get actually when I tell people what I do.
Are those changing as we go here?
So when I was growing up, I was like, oh, I'm a professional soccer player, and I thought that was cool to say. And then when I blew my knees out, I'm like, oh, well, I'm an architect, and oh, that's cool. And then now it's like, oh, well, you go around the room, and I just kind of casually wait. Yeah, it's coming. Oh yeah, I make hash oil. And I think back, and everyone's like, what's that? What? I still love dropping that bomb on people. It's hilarious. I love doing that.
Are the kind of questions kind of changing though from even 6 months ago of maybe I see this as a legitimate industry where I didn't, as a regular person, so to speak?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Definitely. The question it's definitely evolved in Washington. It doesn't have quite the F-bomb effect it does now. Now I've kind of moved in Washington. I say, well, now I'm an entrepreneur who's using hash oil as my means to explore my entrepreneurism. Yeah. So, yeah.
All right. So then, what has most surprised you in life?
What's most surprised me in life? Wow. The how much the little things that you take for granted, how much they really do mean to you. And how much really because I'm a snowboarder now. I my purest thing I do now is I snowboard, and being able to really be in the moment at those times, how important those things really are. Because now I just work all the time now, and I'm really trying to learn how to step back from that, and I'm not being very successful at that just yet because I work every single day.
Right.
But my friends that are texting me from the mountain, "Oh, we're up here on the mountain. Where are you at?" And I'm like, "Oh, making hash oil."
Still just like
still
yesterday.
just like, and then they're like, "Oh, well, can I have some when I come down?" Yeah.
But when you do get up to that mountain, kind of being in that moment,
being in the
type of
moment
thing?
there is so. I treasure that so
Yeah.
much more now,
Yeah.
and just being up on the mountain snowboarding is something I really do try to not take for granted anymore. So especially having the knees that I do now, and it's getting older and destroying my body.
Bummer, dude.
Yeah.
Bummer. All right, so the soundtrack of Brendan's life. Name one track. Name one song that's on that thing.
Probably "When the Levee Breaks" by Led Zeppelin.
And we just had Shane Terry tell us "Stairway to Heaven."
Yeah.
So that's 2 Led Zeppelin. I don't know if it'll be in a row, but right
Boy.
there. So "When the Levee Breaks," my goodness, that's a big one.
Yeah, that is. And we're almost there. Wam Oil is almost at the levee breaking. So
There we go.
Let's see it. Let's see it. So
I love it. Well, throw that one on if you're listening.
There you go.
And Brendan, very much appreciate your time.
Seth, always a pleasure to speak with you.
So there you have Brendan Hamilton, Wam Oil, and again, Gia, his partner, not here for the interview, but certainly present. She's doing fine. She just wasn't here. So I hope you get a good sense there from Brendan exactly what's happened in Washington State and what is still to come.